Our story begins with Cain, a high school boy walking one day toward a nearby store to buy some food. But suddenly, he hears a scream coming from that direction. He turns to find two girls running out of the store, chased by a thief wielding a knife, sprinting after them like a madman. When Cain sees what's happening, he cannot simply stand by. He rushes toward the thief, trying to save the girls, but he takes the stab straight in his stomach. He falls to the ground, drenched in blood. The end is near, but he tells himself, as long as they're safe, I'm satisfied. Then he closes his eyes, and that's when the miracle happens. Cain opens his eyes to find himself in the body of a small child. Unbelievable. He has been transported to another world. One of the maids sees him, rushes toward him and hugs him tightly. His mother, upon learning that he's alive, embraces him with tears of joy. She is overwhelmed with happiness, as this child had apparently been ill for quite some time. Cain looks into the mirror and is stunned. Who is this? This isn't me. When did I become so small? His mother says. His temperature still seems high. Sylvia, go and fetch him something to eat so he can regain his strength. The maid leaves, and Cain remains, trying to comprehend everything. He realizes without a doubt he has been transported to another world, and so he begins to carefully observe his surroundings. Sylvia sees him inspecting his things and grows concerned. But the situation is awkward. He's now only 3 years old, while in truth he's 16. It's a terribly uncomfortable position to be in. Sylvia brings him food and takes care of him, while Cain, still halfway dressed, can barely speak. Later, he sits down with his new family. He introduces them to us. His father is named Garm, his mother is Sarah, and his sister is Rainey. His father is also married to another woman, from whom he has 2 sons, Dejin and Elik. His father appears to be an extraordinary man beyond comparison. Afterward, Sylvia begins to teach Cain about this new world. She tells him about monsters, magic, and the presence of magical energy among the people. Cain can barely believe what he's hearing. It feels like a dream. In my old life, he thinks, I had no one in my family but my grandfather. He died just a few days before I did. Now, I'm going to enjoy every moment in this world. He asks his father about magic, saying, I want to learn it. His father replies, so soon? You're only 3 years old. Have you even learned to read? Cain responds, yes. His father says, then read magic books until you turn 5. After that, I'll personally take you to learn magic. Cain agrees, returns to his room, finds no one there, and decides to try using magic. And he succeeds from the very first attempt. What brilliance is this? Sylvia walks in on him unexpectedly, so he quickly hides his magic so she won't find out. Later, Rinny enters the room, and it's obvious from her behavior that she adores Cain, perhaps even suffers from a bit of a sibling obsession. My friend. Riney decides to teach him everything about this world, and indeed begins training him in many skills, especially magic. 2 years pass in the blink of an eye. Cain is now 5 years old, and it's time to find out whether he's truly qualified to learn magic formally. The family prepares to head to the church, where the evaluation will take place. They board the carriage, and along the way, Rinny shows her magical stats to her brother. Cain notices something new called protection, so he asks about it. They explain, protection is an incredible gift bestowed by one of the 7 heroes at the church. The more protections you have, the stronger you become. The highest protection level is 5. They arrive at the church, and Cain is brought in for the blessing ritual. The priest begins to speak when suddenly, the entire place lights up, and the voice of an old man laughing echoes through the hall. Then, Cain is transported to another realm, the domain of the 7 heroes. Cain is stunned. Are you really the ones who will bless me yourselves? The 7 heroes introduce themselves saying, we know everything about you, your bravery in your past life, and your sacrifice to save the 2 girls. That's why we've prepared a surprise for you, one beyond imagination. Cain is shocked. He asks, what is it? The heroes grant him their own protections, all of them. He can hardly believe it. The old man laughs again and says, you've seen nothing yet. Cain returns to reality. Everyone is stunned by what happened. His father says, show me your stats right now. But Cain responds, let me go to the bathroom first, and slips away to check his stats on his own. And what a shock. He's received protection from all 7 heroes. Not only that, but he possesses lost magical elements, and every single one of his stats is at max level. Wait, max level? The highest level in this world is 5. But Cain has gone far beyond that. He's now twice as strong as the strongest person in the world. Sensing the danger, he hides and reduces his stats, so no one becomes suspicious. He returns home with his family, and the atmosphere is filled with joy. His father then asks to see his stats. When he does, he's utterly shocked. Son, how do you have protection from all the heroes? How is your magical energy 340,000? The strongest royal guard only has 100,000. Cain, for his part, didn't fully understand. It all overwhelmed him. His father warns him, never show your stats to anyone. You'll become an international target. And if these are your hidden stats, what if they saw the real ones? The world would lose its mind. That night, Cain enters his room and finds a book titled The Art of Summoning. Since his sister isn't around, he sneaks outside to try summoning something. Maybe a cute little creature. A dog, perhaps. Something nice. But what happens? A giant monster appears. Calm down, son. The beast spots a girl walking nearby and charges at her. Riney also happens to be there and rushes to protect the girl, but the monster nearly tears them apart. Cain remembers that moment, the moment he sacrificed his life to save 2 girls. I won't let this happen again, he tells himself. He runs to protect them, but the monster grabs him and starts crushing him. He's about to be killed, but then, the surprise. Cain uses reverse summoning and sends the beast back to its origin. He collapses to the ground, exhausted but proud of what he has done. Riney and the girl rush to him, full of gratitude. And the moment is pure beauty and emotion. Truly. A few days later, his father held a grand celebration for his baptism and the beginning of his magical training. He invited a large number of people, and everyone rejoiced with happiness. During the festivities, the priest asked the father, "What do you hope your son will become when he grows up?" The boy answered, "I want to travel to many places. I want to protect these wonderful people, their smiles, and never be a burden to them. I'll become an adventurer." His father was overjoyed by his words. Everyone applauded warmly, and someone shouted, "Big cheers for you, Cain." Afterwards, Cain's father took him to the dining hall and said, "I'll bring you a teacher who will train you in magic." Cain was overwhelmed with joy, his childish innocence evident as he ran to his room, imagining what his teacher would look like. Would he be a giant? Or perhaps a wicked witch? Surely someone a bit crazy. As he was lost in thought, the servant entered with his teachers. Cain was so surprised that he fell to the floor like a fool. He apologized, "I'm sorry, I didn't notice." The girl scoffed, "Do you still want to be breastfed, little boy? Looks like you're still hungry." Then the servant said, "These 2 are your instructors. They will train you in magic and take care of you." Cain was shocked. He introduced himself and they all entered the hall where he met the rest of the family. The first was named Millie and the second Tina. They had been assigned to train him for 3 full years. But honestly, 3 minutes might be enough for him. They all went out to the palace courtyard to begin training. Cain was brimming with excitement. Millie said, "Show us your sword skills, champ." Cain picked up the sword and began demonstrating his moves. Tina watched in amazement. "What's this? He looks like a prodigy." She whispered to Millie, "Are you sure there's anything left for us to teach him?" Millie replied, "We'll find out now." She called out, "You seem strong. Come face me in a duel." As soon as the duel began, Cain struck hard, nearly shattering her bones. She shouted, "Enough! Do you have the blessing of a war hero or what?" He replied, "Yes, I do," she said. "Then go to Tina. She'll teach you magic." Tina was just about to explain when Cain interrupted, "Wait. Let me show you something." Suddenly he used all 4 elemental powers at once and obliterated the wall with a single blow. Tina gasped, "Do you have the blessing of the magic heroine?" He said, "Yes." The 2 girls were left speechless. They realized Cain was no ordinary boy. He was a genius destined to shake the world. Cain pulled out his toolbox in front of them, and it became clear he possessed talents far beyond his years. They went to his father and told him, "We need to train Cain outside the city. His power is too much. He might destroy the palace." The father was stunned. "It's only the first day. Have mercy, son," Cain replied eagerly. "It's fine. I'll be okay." The father agreed on one condition. "Be back before sunset." Cain said, "Deal." They finally left the city. Cain was thrilled. It was his first time seeing the vast open world. They took him to a large boulder. Tina said, "Try destroying it." Cain charged with excitement and destroyed the rock and everything around it. The 2 girls were shocked. One of them asked, "How did you unleash all that power? You must be exhausted." But Cain confidently replied, "When are we starting the training? That was just a warm-up." Imagine that. He shattered a rock the size of a house and called it warming up. Suddenly, Tina yelled, "A monster's coming." Everyone got ready. A feral rabbit charged toward Cain, ignoring everyone else. But the beast didn't know who it was dealing with. Cain took it down instantly and stored it in his toolbox. Then Millie said longingly, "I want a toolkit like his, but I'd need a lot of money to buy one." Cain was touched and felt compassion. Tina then taught him search magic, and he mastered it on the first try. They soon found 4 magical rabbits and headed off to fight them, but one escaped into the forest. Cain was about to chase it, but Tina warned, "The forest is dangerous. There are monsters that could kill you." He replied, "All right, I won't go in." They returned home, and Cain checked his stats. Unbelievable. He leveled up 8 times just from defeating a magical rabbit. Imagine if he defeated a boar. He'd probably jump 1,000 levels. The next day, Millie and Tina took Cain to the guild to ask about stronger magical beasts and to gather the equipment they needed. The receptionist explained everything, then added, "There are some wolves in that area. You'll find them if you go there." she suddenly realized the boy was the son of the regional ruler and blurted, "I'm so sorry, Your Excellency, I didn't know." Kane kindly replied, "It's all right, don't worry." Suddenly, a large man approached them and said, "What are you doing with this child? Don't you have better things to do than babysit?" Then he mocked, "Make a cup of tea for the big man in front of you." Millie refused, and the man tried to hit her. Kane immediately stepped in. "Don't you dare raise your hand," the man sneered. "Step aside, boy. I don't want to hurt you." But Kane showed no fear. He attacked with force and broke the man's bone in front of everyone. The man tried to stand, but couldn't. Kane kept humiliating him. The man lunged with his sword, but Kane dodged and caught the blade between his fingers, then flung it away. He threw the man's companions one by one, then turned to his two moonlit guardians and said, "Who's next?" Tina ran up to him, hugged him and said, "Thank you for protecting us, but next time, I'll protect you." Millie smiled deeply too. After that, they went into the forest to continue training, and the days passed smoothly and peacefully until the 3 years had come to an end. Finally, the day of Kane's graduation arrived. He put on his suit and thought about gifts to give his teachers. He remembered Millie saying she wanted a toolkit, so he decided to make one for her. At night, he entered the cursed forest, where he faced a massive red ogre and incinerated it. He said, "This one's for Millie." Then he faced a green dragon and defeated it with ease. "This one's for Tina." Back in the city, the guards saw explosions and raised the alarm. The army rushed to the scene but found nothing. Kane's father spotted a handkerchief on the ground and immediately realized his son was behind all the destruction. The next day, Kane defeated 15 magical wolves. Then his two teachers approached him and said, "You've completed your training. Today, you officially graduate. It's been a beautiful journey. You are the most wonderful Kane in the world." Kane stepped forward and pulled out 2 toolkits from his bag. He said, "I know these are simple things, but I hope you'll accept them from me." The girls were overjoyed. They gave him a gift too and said, "Someday, you'll be the one receiving gifts, my friend." Then they said their goodbyes. "If you ever need us, we'll be right behind you. Farewell, Moonlight Boy." Kane returned home, unable to decide what to do in the coming days, only to be surprised as his father burst into the room, exclaiming, "Were you the one in the forest last night?" Kane calmly replied, "Yes." "Is there a problem?" his father asked anxiously. "What were you doing there?" Kane replied indifferently, "Nothing much. I just killed a dragon and a red ogre." His father was shocked. "You say that as if you swatted 2 mosquitoes, boy. Those are legendary beasts that can destroy an entire city. You must be more careful, or you'll get us all in trouble." Kane responded apologetically. "All right, I won't do it again. Don't worry, old man." The next day, Kane headed into battle against a giant dragon and defeated it. His energy skyrocketed at an incredible rate. He was nearly powerful enough to destroy the earth. 2 years passed. Kane rode in a carriage with his family on the way to enroll in the Magic Academy. His sister was ecstatic, cheering him on, and his father was equally pleased. The entire family was at peace and in high spirits. Suddenly, along the road, Kane noticed a group of monsters attacking civilians nearby. He alerted his father, who sent the guards to assist, but Kane realized the guards wouldn't arrive in time. He leapt from the carriage and flew toward the scene using his powers. At that moment, several guards were surrounding a carriage under attack from all sides. Their commander shouted, "Protect the princess at all costs. Don't let the monsters near her." But one of the beasts had already gotten dangerously close to her. Until, my friend, the legend himself, Kane, appeared in a flash. He seized the monster before it could react and crushed it instantly. The remaining monsters fell one after another. The guards stared at Kane in disbelief. How could such a young boy do all this? Kane stepped forward and introduced himself, informing them that his father was on the way to help. But the exhausted guards could barely stand. They collapsed before him. Kane activated a healing spell, restoring the wounded. Everyone was amazed, and some were even suspicious of him. But Kane added, "I'm sorry, my magic only heals the wounded. It can't bring back the dead." He then gathered the bodies of the fallen and placed them in his magical dimension to return them to their families in the city for a proper burial. His father soon arrived, and upon seeing the carriage's emblem, was stunned. It bore the royal family's crest. The carriage door opened, revealing 2 incredibly beautiful girls. They introduced themselves politely and thanked Garm for saving them, though fear still lingered in their eyes. Kane activated a charm to cheer them up. The girls began to dance with joy, thanking him. They introduced themselves. The one with green eyes was Telestia, and the honey-eyed one was Silky. Silky held Kane's hand and said, "I saw you fighting the monsters from the window. You were incredible." Telestia became flustered and grabbed his other hand. My friend, the fire of love had begun to blaze on his armor. Kane asked them where they were headed. When he replied that he was going to the royal capital, they insisted on bringing him along. Kane sat in the carriage while the 2 girls sat far from him. They were well-mannered noblewomen, and the poor boy sat modestly, fully clothed, and reserved. One of the guards interrupted, saying, "We'll reach a city soon. We'll rest there for 2 days before continuing." Kane responded, stunned, "Did you see what just happened back there?" The guard replied, I saw everything. Cain was speechless. Trust me, you wouldn't want to be in his shoes. At last, they arrived at the city and checked into a hotel to rest. Cain was relieved to finally get away from the girls, until the unexpected happened. When he entered his room, he found the two girls holding on to him. We're scared, they said. We won't let you leave us alone. His father objected. It's not proper for you to sleep in the same room, but the girls refused and dragged Cain in with them. Inside the room, the beds were adjacent, and they debated who would sleep next to him. Eventually, they decided to put him in the middle. Cain said, "There's space between the beds." They answered, "Wait, we'll move them closer." He tried to protest, but they held him and lay beside him. Suddenly, the scene turned into a full-blown anime comedy, my friend. After several days, Cain looked utterly exhausted. He hadn't slept properly in 3 days. They resumed their journey and finally reached the royal capital. There, the commander of the royal guard greeted them and noticed both girls clinging to Cain's arms. "Calm down, man," he joked. Cain blushed with embarrassment, still half-dressed. John the commander stepped forward to introduce himself and thank Cain for saving the princess and the guards. Cain then summoned the bodies of all the fallen guards and said, "Excuse me, I'll take my leave now." But John replied, "Leave? His Majesty wants to see you right away." Cain was stunned and headed to the king to learn more. The king stood before all and honored Cain for his bravery and for saving the princess. He said, "I hereby grant you the title of Baron and a mansion as your reward." Everyone was shocked. No one could believe it. The king added, "He didn't just save the princess, he healed all the guards and returned the bodies of the fallen. Talented children like him must be honored." Cain was astonished by how things had turned out and accepted the reward. As he was about to leave, the king stopped him saying, "I need to speak with you." Cain sat with his father waiting for the king. His father said, "My son, have mercy on me. It's your first day in the capital, and already you're a baron with a mansion? What is this?" Cain replied, "What can I say, old man? I guess I'm just lucky." The king entered accompanied by Silky's father. They both bowed to Cain in gratitude for saving their daughters. Cain told them, "Please, raise your heads. I didn't do anything noteworthy." The king responded, "I thanked you as a king. Now I thank you as a father." Silky's father echoed the sentiment, which pleased Cain greatly. Then the king got to the point and said, "I would like to betroth my daughter to you, and Silky as well." Cain was stunned and said, "But I've only known them for 4 days. The king replied, "You traveled together, held hands and slept side by side. After that, the people will never accept them marrying anyone else." Cain was shocked but agreed. The girls were overjoyed, while your man Garm nearly passed out from the shock. My friend, the future just got a whole lot crazier. The next day, Cain used his power to visit the 7 heroes. When he arrived, they welcomed him, and he told them about what had happened, how his power kept growing rapidly, and how he no longer understood what was going on. One of them said, "I'm the one who increased your power, man. You are now the strongest human on this planet. No one can stand against you." Cain was surprised and said, "Thank you, old man." Another hero approached and said, "Why don't you create a game for us? This world is gloomy and nothing brings people joy." Cain replied, "Leave it to me. I'll make you an amazing game." And so, Cain returned to the world. He went out with his sister to buy some clothes, but he couldn't bear staying in the store for long due to what he was seeing. So he stepped outside. There, he ran into a girl he seemed to know from the past. She greeted him warmly. It was clear they shared an old friendship. Her father then appeared and welcomed Cain humbly, inviting him into his shop. The man turned out to be a skilled merchant, nearly an expert in everything. Cain had finished developing the concept of the game and submitted the designs and all the details to the man responsible for executing it. The man was thoroughly impressed with the idea, but he said, "The costs are extremely high. We won't be able to afford it." At that moment, Cain pulled out a gold coin and asked, "Is this enough?" The man was stunned by the amount and replied, "That's more than enough. Far more than enough." Cain then left the place, only to find Reno standing in front of him. She seemed a little upset because she was wearing new clothes and he hadn't seen them. She said, "Where have you been, sir? And why did you leave without commenting on my outfit?" Cain smiled and replied, "You look beautiful in everything. My eyes hurt from your beauty, so I had to step outside to recover my vision." Reno was touched by his words and softly responded, "All right." They returned home together, and Reno sat in front of him, showing him all her new outfits, which put him in a rather awkward spot. A few days later, the game was completed, and the merchant sent for Cain to come see it. Upon seeing it, Cain found it identical to the world he had designed. He signed a contract with the merchant and handed the first copy of the game to the 7 heroes. He asked the merchant to produce a second copy as a gift for the king at the upcoming party. The merchant replied, "I'll do it, but what do you say we turn this into a business and start selling the game?" Cain agreed, "Absolutely," and handed over the funds to launch the project. As the king's party approached, Cain went with his family. His father said to him, "You're now a baron. All the girls will try to get close to you. Be careful." Cain replied, "All right. I'll run the moment one approaches." They arrived at the banquet, where the king was welcoming guests. Sylvia and her father were there, and Sylvia looked stunning. When Cain saw her, he said, "How breathtaking you are." She was moved and replied, "No one is more beautiful than you." But her father interrupted and said to Cain, "You're an irresponsible young man. Go greet the king." Cain did go to the king and complimented Princess Telestia, which touched her deeply. The king then said to Garm, Cain's father, "How did you raise this boy? He's become a charmer of women." Garm replied, "By God, I don't even know myself." Cain presented the game to the king, and the latter was overjoyed upon seeing it. He said to Cain, "I was planning to speak to you after the banquet about your situation with the girls, so don't go far." Cain agreed, though he seemed a bit anxious. Shortly after, he sat with Telestia, and the atmosphere between them was wonderful. But luck betrayed him. He bumped into a huge young man, barrel-like in size, who began to mock and bully him, along with two of his friends. Naturally, Cain didn't stay silent. He took them outside for some fresh air. Out there, one of them said, "Sit down and apologize, or I'll make you regret it." Suddenly one of them pulled out a magic book and cast an attack spell, but it wasn't stronger than a matchstick. The second tried something similar, causing real laughter. Telestia said to them, "Cain wiped out an entire army of monsters in moments. What do you think you're doing?" When they realized he was the man who saved the king's daughter, they backed down and fled before the situation turned into a disaster. Later, the king's advisor handed Cain the key to his new mansion and gave him the location. Cain went to the estate and found it abandoned and dark, but he immediately used his magic to breathe life into it, turning it into a masterpiece of architecture. We learned that this mansion was a gift from the king in honor of Cain's new baron title. Cain summoned the servant team who had worked with him before, and when they arrived, they were astounded by the cleanliness and beauty of the mansion. Meanwhile, Cain's family arrived at the estate and were amazed by its magnificence. But suddenly, they heard screaming from outside and rushed to investigate. Indeed, a massive, terrifying dragon was there, so terrifying that even Garm nearly fainted from fear. Cain said calmly, "Don't worry. I defeated it in the forest and took a trophy from it, then turned it into a statue using magic." Garm replied, "That dragon alone could wipe out half the kingdom, and you turned it into a statue." It was later revealed that this dragon was considered a national treasure, worth a vast fortune. Suddenly, Cain learned that he had to send invitations to all the nobles of the kingdom and host them at his mansion. Such was the custom. Cain began preparing for the event with meticulous care, and a wild idea struck him. He would serve burgers as an unconventional dish, and even make soft drinks. He used magic to craft unique glasses and hired a chef, gave him the burger recipe, and finally succeeded in making it. When the maid tasted the food and the drink, she exclaimed, "This is divine." Suddenly, one of the servants rushed in and informed Cain that the king wanted to see him immediately. Cain went and found the king in a furious state because his deputy had opposed inviting Cain. The king said, "I gave you this mansion and you didn't send me an invitation? Since you're marrying my daughter and are now my son, you're a disloyal child." But Cain calmed him down and presented a special invitation saying, "I knew how busy you are and wanted to deliver it to you personally at the right time." The king calmed and was pleased, even boasting about it to his deputy. At last, the day of the banquet arrived. Cain and his father, Garm, stood at the entrance welcoming the guests. The deputy arrived with Telestia, and when they entered, the deputy was shocked at the sight of the dragon. Cain entered the grand hall, welcomed everyone, and thanked them for coming. The guests began tasting the drinks, and they were amazed. The king arrived and sat at the table, asking, "What is this drink?" When he tasted it, he was deeply impressed, but the real surprise came when he tasted the burger. He went absolutely mad. The king gave a direct order, "Slaughter every animal, make burgers out of all of them." Everyone burst into laughter and gave Cain a standing ovation for the marvelous banquet and royal hospitality. Suddenly, Gino arrives at the gates of the palace. As Cain steps out, Gino greets him with mocking sarcasm saying, "Your palace looks exactly like a doghouse." Yet Cain silently lets him enter alone. There, Gino nearly faints in terror upon seeing a dragon face to face, but he composes himself and proceeds into the hall, continuing to mock the place and hurl insults at Cain. Despite it all, Cain offers him food and drink. When Gino tastes the drink, he is surprised by its sweetness, but scoffs, "This is the worst drink I've ever tasted." He does the same with the food, ridiculing it relentlessly, yet suddenly demands 100 portions of it, even asking to take the remaining drinks with him. But Cain refuses and says, "Something this tasteless is unworthy of your status." Enraged, Gino shouts, "What's it to you, fool? Do as I say without question." Cain, however, was deliberately provoking him, trying to push him into uttering an insult in the king's presence. And indeed, Gino explodes with profanity, just as the king suddenly appears from behind and commands, "Get out of here like a dog. You are stripped of your position and shall serve as the gatekeeper at Cain's palace." Terrified, Gino flees. Meanwhile, Telestia realizes that Cain had orchestrated Gino's downfall and remarks, "He got exactly what he deserved, I swear." Soon after, we see Cain standing with the captain of the royal guard, learning that the king has personally assigned him to train the palace guards. The captain suddenly asks, "I've heard you have a dragon in your palace. Is that true?" Cain replies that he owns a whole collection of dragons and invites them to see for themselves. He takes them to the training grounds and opens his tool chest. The captain is stunned and exclaims, "How did you manage to slay all these monsters by yourself? You can't possibly be human. There must be a great secret behind you." Cain grows uneasy and asks to begin training immediately. The captain gathers the soldiers and announces that Cain will be their instructor. One soldier protests, "How can a mere child, no older than 10, possibly train us?" The captain replies, "Then try to defeat him. If you succeed, I'll give you 100 gold coins." The soldier agrees and the duel begins, but Cain darts forward like an arrow and finishes the match in mere seconds. The soldiers are stunned by his overwhelming strength and begin attacking him in a group. Suddenly, a thunderous voice commands them to stop at once. It turns out to be the royal palace's holy guardian, a fierce woman named Brine. She yells, "Attacking a child! Have you all lost your minds?" The captain explains that this is Cain, the one who defeated a horde of monsters and saved the princess himself. At this, Brine's attitude changes completely, and she says, "At last, someone who can rival me in battle." Cain, startled, replies, "Please calm down, don't be hasty." But Brine, known for her wild nature, lunges at him with reckless abandon. Cain is shocked by her strength and barely deflects her blow, but he doesn't remain passive. He vanishes like a phantom, reappears behind her, and ends the battle in seconds in a stunning display. Brine stands frozen and exclaims, "At last, I found someone who can defeat me. I've decided I will marry you immediately." Stunned, Cain responds, "Marriage? But I'm only 10 years old." She replies, "That's fine. Just tell me when you're ready, and I'll wait. Until then, you'll stay here, and I'll keep watch over you myself." When Cain warns that the king might object, she grabs him by the collar and marches straight to the king, declaring that she has decided to marry Cain, and that anyone who stands in her way will be crushed. The king, stunned, asks Cain what happened. Cain answers, "Honestly, I have no idea. I fought her, I won, and ever since then, she's been like this." The king informs her that Cain is already engaged to his daughters and the vice minister's daughter. He expects Brine to back down, but she insists, "Anyone who comes near him, I will slice them in two." Then she hoists Cain up and carries him away. What a force of nature. Meanwhile, we notice Garm nearby, and the king asks him about the source of his son's immense power. Garm is at a loss and replies, "Only God knows." Suddenly, the royal advisor announces that he has a plan. Something is clearly unfolding behind the scenes. Not long after, the king sends the captain of the guard to summon Cain for an important matter. When Cain enters and sits down, he feels tense and asks, "Why are you all gathered like this?" Suddenly, the advisor hands him a forbidden magic book, claiming it to be a gift from the king. As Cain opens it, he is shocked by the spells and exclaims, "Finally, something new I can study." But it was a trap. The king reveals that the book once belonged to the kingdom's first emperor, and no one in centuries has been able to decipher its contents. Cain is even more shocked when he realizes the text is written in Japanese. When the king questions his identity, Cain realizes that his secret has been uncovered. He decides to confess everything, that he came from another world, that he was reincarnated, and that he remembers his previous life. He explains that he came from the same place as the book's original owner, but feared telling anyone, worried that they would shun him, and he would end up alone, just as he had in his past life. He adds that he has found a family and people who love him in this world and is afraid of losing them. He then reveals his status screen, and the room falls into stunned silence. The king is nearly brought to tears. Cain declares, "If you stop treating me as before, I will leave this kingdom." But the king halts him and proclaims him a true son of the kingdom, promising that his secret will remain among them. Shortly after, we see Cain standing before the Adventurers Guild. He has finally turned 12 and is filled with joy, as he is now eligible to register as an adventurer. He enters and asks the receptionist to begin his registration. She welcomes him and hands him a form to fill out, then takes a drop of his blood to assess his physical condition. Within seconds, the guild issues him an adventurer's badge. Rank G, the lowest, since he is just a beginner. At that moment, a group of adventurers begins harassing the receptionist, then targets Cain himself. But to their surprise, Cain vanishes like a ghost among them, dodging every blow effortlessly. Suddenly, a powerful adventurer intervenes and says, "If you're looking for trouble, I'm right here." The others retreat at once. Cain thanks him, but the adventurer responds, "Thank me? I only stepped in to save them from what you were about to do to them." He adds, "With that kind of speed, you're clearly not ordinary." They sit together, and we learn that his name is Lade. He welcomes Cain, noting it's his first day as an adventurer. We also discover that Lade holds an A rank. Cain is amazed and says, "That's a top-tier rank." Lade explains, "Our kingdom's first king held the S rank, the highest in the world. No one has reached it since." Suddenly, a stick comes crashing down on his head. We quickly realize that this isn't his wife. It's a perfect copy of him. She informs him that they have a mission, yet he's already late. Kane introduces himself to her and explains that Lead was helping him, which is likely the reason for his delay. Flynn replies, "Just for your sake, I'll let this one slide," then grabs Lade by the ear and drags him away. Imagine that, his entire aura of authority vanishing in seconds, all because of one woman. Anyway, Kane selects a mission, thrilled beyond measure, and rushes out to carry it out. Suddenly, he bumps into Brian, who appears right in front of him. She runs toward him and hugs him, asking what he's doing there. The guard captain answers that there's a training session and they might be delayed. Brian snaps, "May you and this kingdom burn on the same day. Don't you see I'm standing here with my fiancée?" The guard captain falls silent, stunned. Kane then tells her that he must leave because he has a mission to complete. Naturally, Brian insists on accompanying him on his first mission, which involves eliminating a group of ghouls in the middle of the forest. When they arrive at the location, they're shocked to find a group of ghouls surrounding a villager. It looks like the end for him. They rush to his aid within seconds. Kane begins healing him, while Brian effortlessly slays the ghouls one after another. Kane also uses his magic and enhances his abilities, demonstrating dazzling power. Unfortunately, a large group of giant lizards appears in their midst. Kane instructs Brian to take the villager and get out of there quickly. She follows through, while he channels his energy and annihilates everything in the area. Upon returning to the guild, the receptionist informs him that the monsters he defeated weren't even part of his mission. He asks if he can exchange the loot, and they discover that he defeated 30 giant lizards. The receptionist is so shocked that she screams and immediately takes him to the guild master to report everything. Since Kane had only just registered with the guild, the deputy exclaims, "Impossible! How could someone who just joined kill such monsters? He must have cheated." He accuses him of fraud and demands a severe punishment. But right at that moment, the guild master enters. The deputy rushes to him saying, "This boy is a fraud. He must be made an example of to anyone who tries to deceive the guild." Suddenly, the door bursts open again, and Brian rushes in, hugging Kane. The guildmaster turns to his deputy and says, "Have you heard of the hero who recently saved the princess and wiped out an entire army of monsters? That's exactly who you're accusing right now." No, he's even more than that. This is Kane, who now holds the title of Baron. He is the son of Commander Garm, governor of the South, and also the fiancé of my sister. Yes, you heard that right. Brian is the guildmaster's sister. The deputy nearly faints in shock and immediately apologizes to Kane for everything he said. The guildmaster then decides to upgrade Kane's rank to rank A, saying that it's the least he can do for him. Meanwhile, the archmages responsible for protecting the world are in discussion. They reveal that a great evil is threatening the world, and Kane is the only one who can stand against it. To do so, however, he must further elevate his powers, and there is only one person who can help train him. But who could that person be? We then shift to Kane, and learn that today is the academy entrance examination. Unfortunately, he wakes up late, but that's not a problem. Kane uses his magic and instantly teleports to the academy. He registers his information and heads to the classroom, but he's surprised to find no nobles present, not even Tellus or Telestia. No matter. The first test begins. It consists of general knowledge questions and lasts 2 hours. Kane, however, finishes within the first 15 minutes. When the teacher asks why he's not writing, he responds that he already finished, and so he proceeds to the second test, magic. The instructor asks them to use their full power to strike the target. When Kane asks if he's truly allowed to unleash his full strength, she reassures him, "Don't worry, there's a protection barrier around the area." Kane sarcastically responds, "There's no way I'm believing that nonsense," and proceeds to use his weakest attack. Yet, contrary to expectations, the power released is utterly overwhelming, obliterating the entire area. The teacher screams, "How did this even happen? What would have occurred if you used your full power?" No matter. We move on to the next test. Sword combat. Several adventurers from the rear guard are observing this portion of the exam. Among them is Lead. He waves at Kane and says, "What are you doing here?" Excited, he volunteers to personally test him. The duel begins. Lead tells Kane to show him everything he's got, and Kane responds, "Gladly." They charge at each other with mind-blowing speed and terrifying power. But who's he up against? Kane hasn't even gotten serious yet. Just then, the test supervisor abruptly halts the duel and orders Kane to leave immediately, saying that his test is over and that he should return tomorrow for the results. Kane had terrified the other students so much that no one wanted to continue. Understandable, my friend. Later, we see the academy director speaking with the king's deputy, informing him of a grave matter. A commoner child possesses terrifying power that destroyed part of the academy and shocked both teachers and students alike. The deputy bursts into laughter and says, "Don't bother explaining. It must have been Kane." When the king hears of what happened, he summons Kane. "I heard from Tellus that you didn't attend the exam," he says. When Kane confirms that he did, the king asks, "How many entrances does the academy have?" Kane replies, 2, one in the north for nobles, and one in the south for commoners. The king laughs and says, "You fool. Why did you enter from the southern gate? Then he adds, what's done is done. Here, take this paper. It lists the repair costs for the academy, and you'll pay for them because of your stupidity. The exam results are then released. We learn that Cain not only passed, but ranked first in the entire class. Tellus and Telestia came in second and third respectively. We then move to the academy's first day. Cain is required to give an introductory speech in front of the students, with his proud family in attendance. Cain introduces himself by saying, whether you are a noble or a commoner, there is no distinction. What sets us apart is effort and devotion to the kingdom, nothing else. He expresses his desire to make friends, and everyone reacts positively. The atmosphere is filled with excitement. Then, to everyone's surprise, the king himself appears. He welcomes the students and says, I know there are those among you whose power surpasses imagination. He then slaps Cain on the back of the head saying, I hope they'll be careful and not use their powers again, then smacks him again. At that moment, Cain realizes the king was speaking about him specifically. And no sooner had we finished than a mysterious creature appeared, wandering through the halls of the academy. Suddenly, it heard a strange whisper, go to the library, now. Obeying the voice, it headed there without hesitation. The moment it opened the door, it found itself transported to an entirely different world, a realm unlike anything it had ever seen. As it stood there, awestruck by its surroundings, a strange figure appeared before it and said, I've been waiting for you for a very long time. Cain didn't understand a thing, nor did he know who this stranger was. Yet the two sat together, and it was there that a grave secret was revealed. The man was Yuya, the first king of the kingdom of Asphort. Shocked, Cain asked, how are you still alive? He thought him to be a ghost or a lingering spirit, but Yuya merely smiled and replied, I'll explain everything in time, but for now, know this, you are here to train under me. Still stunned, Cain protested, train? I'm already struggling with the overwhelming power I possess. Yuya then held out a biscuit and said, very well, try to take this from my hand. As Cain reached for it, he was stunned by Yuya's incredible speed. In a flash, Yuya had drawn his blade and placed it at Cain's neck. Cain immediately realized this was no joke. What exactly do you want from me? He asked. Yuya revealed the terrifying truth. Cain was to face Eren, the demon king of this very realm. A terrifying mission, for Eren's power was nightmarish. Yuya had once sealed Eren's strength 300 years ago, but afterward, Yuya had vanished into an isolated world and never returned to Asphort. We learn that the kingdom's high sorcerers had begged Yuya to train Cain, for the seal binding Eren's power was weakening. His return could come at any moment. Without warning, Yuya transported Cain to a remote location and handed him a sword. Your first trial, he said, is to make your way through this forest and return to the palace without using teleportation magic. Though the journey would take over a year, Cain wasn't alarmed, for time in this realm passed differently. A year here was but a single day in the real world. Yuya saw him off, and Cain ventured into the forest, soon finding himself under attack by fearsome beasts with terrifying strength. He defeated them one by one. Suddenly, another monstrous creature ambushed him, slamming him to the ground and binding him. After a fierce and bitter struggle, Cain emerged victorious, but his energy was completely drained, and he collapsed. As he tried to gather the last of his strength, he noticed a wounded wolf before him. Rather than kill it, he chose to heal it, using the last of his power. The healing worked, but he lost consciousness and fell to the ground. When more beasts rushed toward them, the wolf rose and obliterated them in mere seconds. Cain was stunned by the wolf's strength. From that moment on, they became inseparable companions. He named the wolf Hawk and vowed to keep it by his side. The days passed quickly, and at long last, Cain returned to the palace. 5 years later, Yuya welcomed him back and revealed that Hawk was one of the sacred beasts, its power beyond comprehension. Yuya told him that he could now summon Hawk whenever he wished. Suddenly, a strange man named Dare appeared, announcing that he would take over Cain's next phase of training. Eager to prove himself, Cain foolishly launched an attack, but Dare struck him with a single blow that rendered him unconscious. When he awoke, he found himself in Dare's home, where he met his wife, and a small dragon that captured Cain's curiosity. Training resumed, and this time, Cain's progress was astonishing. Though he collapsed in exhaustion on Dare's doorstep each day, it was proof of his growth. After a full year, Cain had become someone entirely new. His power had multiplied many times over. Eventually, he defeated Dare and returned to the palace, where he found Yuya standing before a group of graves. There, Yuya revealed a heartbreaking truth. Those were the graves of Cain's father and mother. Cain was devastated. We are then taken back to the past, where we learn that the demon king Aran was once a guardian sorcerer of the world, until he was cast out for his twisted ideas and love of slaughtering humans. At that time, Yuya was summoned, along with Sir and Magi, Kane's parents, to eliminate Eren and save the world. The battle began, and Eren's power was revealed to be horrifying. No one could stand against him. Magi sacrificed herself to protect her companions, and Sir, driven by rage, attacked Eren recklessly. Though he was wounded, he managed to seal Eren's power for good. Tragically, both of Kane's parents lost their lives in that battle. Back in the present, Kane was deeply shaken, tears streaming down his face. But he swore vengeance and vowed to protect the kingdom with every breath he had. At that very moment, he finally managed to snatch the biscuit from Yuya's hand, proving that he was now ready for the final battle. Yuya restored him to his true form and told him he must return to the kingdom. His family was surely worried. He gave Kane his own sword and sent him back with Hawk and the small dragon. Upon arriving at the palace, Kane was overwhelmed to find everyone gathered, overjoyed by his return. He then went straight to the king and recounted everything that had happened, revealing Yuya's sacred sword before him. The king was stunned to the core. Just then, the royal aide entered and informed Kane that a letter had arrived from the guild during his absence, and if he did not report to them immediately, his name would be permanently removed from their records. When Kane arrived at the guild, he immediately met with the guild master and apologized for failing to complete the mission he had previously been assigned. That mission, we later learned, was to capture a group of bandits operating in a certain area, but Kane didn't hesitate. He set out to complete the task without delay, flying swiftly toward the designated location using magic. Sure enough, he found a group of bandits attacking a carriage. Yet as he approached, he was shocked to see that the people under attack were none other than Nima and Mill. Kane quickly rushed to heal Mill's injuries, then turned to the bandits and declared coldly, "You're about to pay dearly for what you've done." The bandits, enraged, charged at him. But seriously, who were they attacking? This was Kane. He dodged their attacks with ease and took them down one after another, effortlessly and with incredible skill. When Nima and Mill saw his rank, they were completely stunned. This wasn't just some ordinary young man. Not at all. Kane finished the mission and restrained the bandits before flying them back to the guild and handing them over to the receptionist. Just then, a group of bullies began to harass Nima and Mill. It was the same group Kane had humiliated years ago when he was only 5. The moment they saw him again, they froze in terror. And then, out of nowhere, Lead appeared on the scene. The bullies fled immediately. But the real surprise wasn't that. The real shock. Lead and Mill were actually siblings. Yes, you read that right. Kane was taken aback. That red hair, where have I seen it before? A small celebration followed, filled with cheerful energy, but Kane soon informed them that he had to return to the academy. He'd already been gone for over a week. Suddenly, the receptionist approached Lade with a message from the academy. They needed adventurers to help train students the very next day. Naturally, Lade agreed. The following day, we returned to the academy. Kane was brimming with excitement for the magic training class, but the teacher told him he wasn't allowed to participate, only to observe, as usual. They moved on to the swordsmanship class, where the instructor announced that some adventurers from the guild would be assisting with training. Kane's eyes widened when he saw who those adventurers were, Lade and his team. Knowing Kane had no friends in class, Lade tried to help. He asked each student to introduce themselves using their guild names. Everyone complied, except Kane. Lade walked over and asked him directly. Kane replied, "Sorry, I forgot it at home." They moved to the arena for combat practice. The students were far weaker than the guild adventurers, and Lade saw a chance to showcase Kane's power. When Kane's turn comes, Lade thought, I'll pretend to attack him carelessly. He'll amaze everyone and finally get the recognition he deserves. One by one, Lade took down the students until it was Kane's turn. But just as the plan was about to unfold, the academy director stepped in and called the session to an end. Lade's plan had failed, and worse, it only angered Kane more. He could have started with Kane from the beginning. Kane left the academy in frustration and stormed into the forest. There, in a fit of rage, he unleashed destruction on everything around him, a terrifying sight. Meanwhile, in the kingdom of Lobel, a massive surge of dark energy was detected coming from the forest. An emergency was declared, and Garm was dispatched with troops, just as before. Once again, Garm realized this was Kane's doing. In a later scene, Kane appeared in the academy's courtyard. This time, he entered the magic class, only to leave moments later. When the teacher asked why, he said, "I'll just be forced to watch again." Like always. But this time, Shin, the new magic instructor, informed him that today's lesson involved summoning beasts, and Kane could participate. The instructor began handing out summoning seals and explained how to form bonds with the creatures. When Kane's turn came, he hesitated, afraid of summoning something terrifying like before. But the teacher reassured him, if no bond is formed, the beast will simply vanish, and if anything goes wrong, you're allowed to use your powers. Encouraged, Kane began the summoning ritual. Suddenly, the ground shook, and dark energy surged through the room. A colossal demon appeared, the King of Darkness himself. Set. Cain stepped forward and shielded his classmates with his power. Set, sensing Cain's strength, suddenly knelt and said, "Please, let me form a pact with you. Just don't kill me. I have demons I'm raising." Cain was stunned, but accepted. The contract was sealed. Set then added, "If you ever want a city wiped off the map, just say the word. I'll handle it." When the king heard of what had happened, he summoned Cain at once, demanding to know if the rumors were true. Cain replied calmly, "Seems someone lied to you. I never summoned the King of Darkness." The king was shaken. He asked Cain to open his status screen. Cain agreed, but added one condition. "If anyone utters a word about what they see, I'll execute them myself." Cain opened the screen. The king was so shocked that he immediately stepped down from the throne and offered it to Cain, begging for mercy. Convinced that Cain could destroy the entire world if angered, Cain returned home. As he sat quietly, his butler delivered a message from his father. "The monsters have begun attacking our village. You must come immediately." Cain raced to the village, finding it on high alert. He met with Garm, and together they realized this wasn't like the previous threats. It was far more dangerous. Garm tried to stop Cain from heading into the forest, but Cain simply showed him his guild card, proof that he had received the highest rank on his very first day, without anyone ever seeing his secret status screen. Though the journey would take over a year, Cain wasn't alarmed, for time in this realm passed differently. A year here was but a single day in the real world. Yuya saw him off, and Cain ventured into the forest, soon finding himself under attack by fearsome beasts with terrifying strength. He defeated them one by one. Suddenly, another monstrous creature ambushed him, slamming him to the ground and binding him. After a fierce and bitter struggle, Cain emerged victorious, but his energy was completely drained, and he collapsed. As he tried to gather the last of his strength, he noticed a wounded wolf before him. Rather than kill it, he chose to heal it, using the last of his power. The healing worked, but he lost consciousness and fell to the ground. When more beasts rushed toward them, the wolf rose and obliterated them in mere seconds. Cain was stunned by the wolf's strength. From that moment on, they became inseparable companions. He named the wolf Hawk and vowed to keep it by his side. The days passed quickly, and at long last, Cain returned to the palace. 5 years later, Yuya welcomed him back and revealed that Hawk was one of the sacred beasts, its power beyond comprehension. Yuya told him that he could now summon Hawk whenever he wished. Suddenly, a strange man named Dare appeared, announcing that he would take over Cain's next phase of training. Eager to prove himself, Cain foolishly launched an attack, but Dare struck him with a single blow that rendered him unconscious. When he awoke, he found himself in Dare's home, where he met his wife, and a small dragon that captured Cain's curiosity. Training resumed, and this time, Cain's progress was astonishing. Though he collapsed in exhaustion on Dare's doorstep each day, it was proof of his growth. After a full year, Cain had become someone entirely new. His power had multiplied many times over. Eventually, he defeated Dare and returned to the palace, where he found Yuya standing before a group of graves. There, Yuya revealed a heartbreaking truth. Those were the graves of Cain's father and mother. Cain was devastated. We are then taken back to the past, where we learn that the demon king Iran was once a guardian sorcerer of the world, until he was cast out for his twisted ideas and love of slaughtering humans. At that time, Yuya was summoned, along with Sir and Magi, Cain's parents, to eliminate Eren and save the world. The battle began, and Eren's power was revealed to be horrifying. No one could stand against him. Magi sacrificed herself to protect her companions, and Sir, driven by rage, attacked Eren recklessly. Though he was wounded, he managed to seal Eren's power for good. Tragically, both of Cain's parents lost their lives in that battle. Back in the present, Cain was deeply shaken, tears streaming down his face, but he swore vengeance and vowed to protect the kingdom with every breath he had. At that very moment, he finally managed to snatch the biscuit from Yuya's hand, proving that he was now ready for the final battle. Yuya restored him to his true form and told him he must return to the kingdom. His family was surely worried. He gave Cain his own sword and sent him back with Hawk and the small dragon. Upon arriving at the palace, Cain was overwhelmed to find everyone gathered, overjoyed by his return. He then went straight to the king and recounted everything that had happened, revealing Yuya's sacred sword before him. The king was stunned to the core. Just then, the royal aide entered and informed Cain that a letter had arrived from the guild during his absence, and if he did not report to them immediately, his name would be permanently removed from their records. When Cain arrived at the guild, he immediately met with the guild master and apologized for failing to complete the mission he had previously been assigned. That mission, we later learned, was to capture a group of bandits operating in a certain area, but Cain didn't hesitate. He set out to complete the task without delay, flying swiftly toward the designated location using magic. Sure enough, he found a group of bandits attacking a carriage. Yet as he approached, he was shocked to see that the people under attack were none other than Nima and Mill. Cain quickly rushed to heal Mill's injuries, then turned to the bandits and declared coldly, "You're about to pay dearly for what you've done." The bandits, enraged, charged at him. But seriously, who were they attacking? This was Cain. He dodged their attacks with ease and took them down one after another, effortlessly and with incredible skill. When Nima and Mill saw his rank, they were completely stunned. This wasn't just some ordinary young man. Not at all. Cain finished the mission and restrained the bandits before flying them back to the guild and handing them over to the receptionist. Just then, a group of bullies began to harass Nima and Mill. It was the same group Cain had humiliated years ago when he was only 5. The moment they saw him again, they froze in terror. And then, out of nowhere, Lead appeared on the scene. The bullies fled immediately. But the real surprise wasn't that. The real shock. Lead and Mill were actually siblings. Yes, you read that right. Cain was taken aback. That red hair, where have I seen it before? A small celebration followed, filled with cheerful energy, but Cain soon informed them that he had to return to the academy. He'd already been gone for over a week. Suddenly, the receptionist approached Lade with a message from the academy. They needed adventurers to help train students the very next day. Naturally, Lade agreed. The following day, we returned to the academy. Cain was brimming with excitement for the magic training class, but the teacher told him he wasn't allowed to participate, only to observe, as usual. They moved on to the swordsmanship class, where the instructor announced that some adventurers from the guild would be assisting with training. Cain's eyes widened when he saw who those adventurers were. Lade and his team. Knowing Cain had no friends in class, Lade tried to help. He asked each student to introduce themselves using their guild names. Everyone complied, except Cain. Lade walked over and asked him directly. Cain replied, "Sorry, I forgot it at home." They moved to the arena for combat practice. The students were far weaker than the guild adventurers, and Lade saw a chance to showcase Cain's power. When Cain's turn comes, Lead thought, I'll pretend to attack him carelessly. He'll amaze everyone and finally get the recognition he deserves. One by one, Lead took down the students until it was Cain's turn. But just as the plan was about to unfold, the academy director stepped in and called the session to an end. Lead's plan had failed, and worse, it only angered Cain more. He could have started with Cain from the beginning. Cain left the academy in frustration and stormed into the forest. There, in a fit of rage, he unleashed destruction on everything around him. A terrifying sight. Meanwhile, in the kingdom of Lobel, a massive surge of dark energy was detected coming from the forest. An emergency was declared, and Garm was dispatched with troops, just as before. Once again, Garm realized this was Cain's doing. In a later scene, Cain appeared in the academy's courtyard. This time, he entered the magic class, only to leave moments later. When the teacher asked why, he said, "I'll just be forced to watch again, like always." But this time, Shin, the new magic instructor, informed him that today's lesson involved summoning beasts, and Cain could participate. The instructor began handing out summoning seals and explained how to form bonds with the creatures. When Cain's turn came, he hesitated, afraid of summoning something terrifying like before. But the teacher reassured him, if no bond is formed, the beast will simply vanish, and if anything goes wrong, you're allowed to use your powers. Encouraged, Cain began the summoning ritual. Suddenly, the ground shook, and dark energy surged through the room. A colossal demon appeared, the King of Darkness himself. Set. Cain stepped forward and shielded his classmates with his power. Set, sensing Cain's strength, suddenly knelt and said, "Please, let me form a pact with you. Just don't kill me. I have demons I'm raising." Cain was stunned, but accepted. The contract was sealed. Set then added, "If you ever want a city wiped off the map, just say the word. I'll handle it." When the king heard of what had happened, he summoned Cain at once, demanding to know if the rumors were true. Cain replied calmly, "Seems someone lied to you. I never summoned the King of Darkness." The king was shaken. He asked Cain to open his status screen. Cain agreed, but added one condition. "If anyone utters a word about what they see, I'll execute them myself." Cain opened the screen. The king was so shocked that he immediately stepped down from the throne and offered it to Cain, begging for mercy. Convinced that Cain could destroy the entire world if angered, Cain returned home. As he sat quietly, his butler delivered a message from his father. "The monsters have begun attacking our village. You must come immediately." Cain raced to the village, finding it on high alert. He met with Garm, and together they realized this wasn't like the previous threats. It was far more dangerous. Garm tried to stop Cain from heading into the forest, but Cain simply showed him his guild card, proof that he had received the highest rank on his very first day. Without anyone ever seeing his secret status screen, he reassured Garm and promised everything would be fine. Then, he ventured deep into the forest, summoning both Hawk and the small dragon. Together they began exploring the area, eliminating every monster in their path. Suddenly, Cain begins to feel something strange in the area. He summons Seth and asks him to explore the forest with them. Seth quickly senses a mysterious presence and informs Cain that there's a bizarre creature in the woods, with monsters gathering around it. Realizing this is no ordinary situation, Seth requests permission to summon one of his aides who could be of great help. Seth then calls upon one of his subordinates, Machine, and introduces him to Cain, telling him that Machine now serves him. He even has Machine greet Cain formally. Cain asks if he knows anything about what's going on in the forest, but before they can continue, a group of dragons suddenly appears. In a flash, a mysterious creature wipes them out and throws them into a literal sack. Cain orders Seth and Machine to continue exploring the forest while he returns to warn the others. He takes the monster corpses and rushes to the guild, reporting that these were rank A monsters and that danger is now knocking at their doors. He urges them to stay alert. Meanwhile, Seth and Machine head deeper into the forest, only to be horrified by what they see, an apocalyptic sight. The monsters have overrun the entire forest and are heading toward the city. Even worse, the one behind the attack is none other than Aaron. Seth immediately rushes to Cain and warns him about the terrifying assault. Cain tells his friends to gather all adventurers and protect the city at any cost. As for him, he must return to the forest and confront the threat. Back in the forest, Machine fights off countless monsters with terrifying strength. But then, a monster sneaks up behind him and completely annihilates him. Cain arrives with Seth and quickly pinpoints Aaron's location, confirming he's the mastermind. Seth tells Cain to focus on confronting Aaron and leave the monsters to him. Seth then summons his 4 siblings, each a force to be reckoned with, and instructs them to block any movement of the monsters toward the city. "Let's see this place burn," he says, rallying them into battle. At that moment, the adventurers arrive at the forest and are stunned by Seth and his squad, but they ready themselves for the fight. Any monster that escapes Seth's team is taken down by the adventurers one by one. However, the monsters keep coming, and the adventurers begin to lose energy. It seems like this could be the end, until, suddenly, Brain arrives, slicing through monsters like a storm, bringing reinforcements with her. The team is reinvigorated and resumes the fight. We return to Cain, now flying above a sea of monsters. He dives straight into them with wild abandon, decimating them instantly. But a terrifying energy blast comes flying toward him, yet Cain, being the absolute powerhouse he is, dodges it like a pro. In front of him stands a giant dragon, Garen, who somehow managed to escape the seal, though not in his full form. Garen gathers energy and slams the ground, unleashing an army of monsters. Cain tries to reason with him, but it's pointless. Battle is inevitable. Then, Garen growls, "You remind me of that filthy mage," triggering Cain's memory of his parents. Enraged, Cain declares, "You'll pay for what you did," and a fierce battle begins. Garen charges in recklessly, but Cain isn't one to be taken lightly. He retaliates with devastating force, slamming Garen into the ground. Furious, Garen flies at Cain with monstrous power. At that moment, Hawk and the young dragon join the fight, attacking Aaron together and managing to knock him down. But Aaron strikes back, mortally wounding Hawk. Just as Aaron prepares to deal the final blow, the young dragon sacrifices himself to protect Hawk. And you think Cain would let that slide? Not a chance. Cain suddenly appears in front of them, blocking the attack. "I won't let you hurt anyone while I'm alive," he says. "I'll protect my friends to my last breath, and I've got a score to settle with you. The time of reckoning has come." Cain's aura erupts like a volcano, overwhelming everything. With one mighty strike, he obliterates Iran from existence. The sheer force leaves everyone stunned. No one can believe the power behind that blow. Seth rushes to Cain, only to find him still attacking. "Who are you even hitting now, you maniac? You've destroyed the forest," Seth shouts. Apparently, Cain thought Aaron was still there. With the battle over, the monsters retreat to the forest, and peace returns to the city. Cain and his friends celebrate their hard-earned victory. Later, the king summons Cain and, as usual, is in shock over the destruction. But putting that aside, the king appoints Cain as the governor of Redel City and throws him a massive celebration in his honor. He even promotes him to the rank of minister, in front of everyone. What a glow-up. Cain's first act, he goes to Redel City disguised as a commoner and heads to the Adventurers Guild. Rumors say crime runs rampant there, and sure enough, Cain starts cleaning house. Anyone who crosses his path gets crushed. He wipes out the core of corruption in the city. Then, using his magic, he builds a palace larger than anything you've ever seen. And to top it all off, looks like our boy Cain is about to marry not one, not two, but all 3 of the girls in front of him. Talk about a power move. When the king hears about all this, you guessed it, he's shocked again. And that, my friends, is the end of our anime. If you enjoyed it, don't forget to leave a comment, hit that like button to support us, subscribe to the channel, and activate the bell so you never miss a new episode. See you in the next ones. Peace out.